What's up guys, ProdiJay here and welcome to the second episode of Setup Tour Showdown, where I review the setups that you guys sent me and give my feedback. And if you like these types of videos, be sure to drop a like so I can make more. Now for today's setups, here from Rhys, Ahmed, Ziad, Oskar, and Gabriel. Thank you for your submissions guys, as I very much appreciate it, but without further ado, let's get right into this classy video. Now starting off with Rhys, he's 13 years old, lives in England. His hobby is gaming and playing Overwatch, CSGO, League of Legends, and Minecraft. His favorite colors are blue and purple, and he uses his setup for gaming and homework. But getting to the setup, I think it looks nice. I see you got a 21.5-inch Acer monitor, which I would normally recommend a 24-inch monitor instead, but your setup does seem a bit confined in the corner. So for this situation, I think it's alright. Moving on to peripherals, Rhys uses a HyperX Cloud 2 headset, a Logitech G403 mouse, an AND Pro 2 mechanical keyboard with purple keycaps from Ducky, and uses all of that on a glorious extended mousepad. So I do think that your equipment is pretty good, which I do love the keycaps that you use for your keyboard. Moving on to PC specs, he has a Ryzen 5 2600, a GTX 1660 Ti, 8GB of DDR3 Ram clocked at 2400 MHz, has a 240GB SSD, 1TB hard drive, and all of that within an MB600L PC case from Cooler Master. Now for the whole setup, I think it's quite good, especially for a 13-year-old, because when I was 13, I didn't really have too much compared to this. And also in this setup, you can see some personality here and there, like how you can tell that Rhys likes Dragon Ball Z. And for the cable management, I like how everything is hidden behind the PC, and underneath the desk there isn't really much to worry about. But overall, I really like this setup, as it shows a fair amount of personality and it's quite good for a 13-year-old. Next up we got Ahmed. He is 13 years old, lives in the UK, his hobby is coding, and his favorite game is Minecraft. But overall, he uses his setup for gaming, drawing, and coding. But getting to the setup, I can see that it's mostly a budget setup, which I wouldn't say is bad, but honestly, it's a great start, especially at 13 years old. But let's talk about the equipment. So he has a 24-inch ViewSonic monitor that he got from a garage sale for £3, and he did say that yes, there is a line of dead pixels, but in my opinion, I think that's a great deal, because as long as it works for the most part, it's still good, especially for someone at a young age. But moving on to the peripherals, Ahmed uses a 7D gaming mouse, his keyboard is some random one that he got off eBay for £10, and he uses a blue snowball for his microphone. So he's not really running expensive equipment, but it gets the job done. Moving on to the PC, he has an Intel Core i3, a GTX 710 GPU, and 8GB of DDR3 Ram, so kinda low specs, but you could definitely upgrade your parts. And for cable management, I would just recommend getting a cable sleeve or use Velcro ties to bunch up your cords together, just so to make it more cleaner. Now, if I had to give my opinion on the setup overall, I would say it's pretty good from a budget standpoint, especially at 13 years old, but I would recommend that you tidy up your room a bit more, Ahmed, and try to save up money to upgrade your setup in the future. Moving on, we got Zeyad. He lives in Cairo, Egypt. His hobby is streaming and his favorite game is Fortnite, but overall, he just uses his setup just for that. But getting to the setup, I noticed a lot of things off the bat that could definitely use improvement. But let's talk about the equipment. Starting off, he has a 19-inch Samsung monitor, which I would recommend upgrading since it only has a 1600 by 900 resolution instead of the normal 1080p resolution. And I would recommend getting a bigger display size as well, like 24 inches. Now moving on to peripherals, Ziad uses a half mechanical keyboard from Forev, a RGB mouse from Atik, a Razer mousepad, uses a Quotient HG2000 headset, and finally has speakers from Creative. Now looking at all this equipment, I think it's pretty alright starting out, but I do think you should focus on upgrading certain things like your monitor, or think about getting better headphones and such. But looking at your setup, I think the main thing you should get is a new desk, because you could have the best equipment in the world, but it will look kinda odd if you have a worn down desk. Now, I don't know your situation, Ziad, but I'm gonna assume that you're pretty young. I would recommend saving up money and buying a cheap IKEA Linman desk, because you can easily get a nice quality desk for about $40 or so, and it will improve the look of your setup by a crap ton. And moving on to your PC, I just think you should try and save up money, or ask your parents to help you build a PC for a budget like $300 or more, because the specs of your PC are quite low for gaming nowadays. And for cable management, my boy, you gotta fix that with cable ties, cable sleeves, or just something, maybe even a cable box, because the cable management is quite a mess. But overall, I think your setup could use a lot of improvements, but honestly, if you can just get a new desk and fix your cable management situation, your setup will look way better. Next up we got Oskar. He's 13 years old, lives in England. His hobbies are playing video games and making YouTube videos, which is basically the main purpose of his setup. But getting to the setup, I just gotta say I'm quite in love with the white theme, as it does help to give the whole setup a clean, professional feel to it. But getting to the equipment, he has a 24-inch AOC monitor with a 1 millisecond response time overclocked at 75 Hz. He also has a blue snowball on a newer microphone arm, and he uses an old model of a Turtle Beach headset. For his peripherals, he uses a Lexon Elec mechanical keyboard with blue switches, has a Logitech G502 mouse, and for his accessories, he has a Nord Pop vinyl, has a Google Home, and has a cool rainbow karambit, which I really like that since I also have a rainbow knife in my setup. But for all of his equipment and such, I really like everything here, but I would recommend they move that Logitech stand on your desk to maybe the side or somewhere, only because it looks like it's cluttering your desk a little bit. Which, speaking of your desk, Oskar, I really like how you went with an IKEA desk with drawers, which I did see that he made a note saying that he took one of the drawers out, most likely for space I'm assuming. But moving on to PC specs, he has a Ryzen 5 1500X CPU, a 4GB GTX 1050 Ti GPU, 8GB of DDR3 Ram clocked at 2400MHz, has a 1TB hard drive, and all of that within a Game Max Falcon PC case. So pretty decent specs here, especially for someone that's 13 years old. And now moving on to cable management, I honestly think it's pretty much perfect. I mean, everything's out of the way and set up inside the cable rack, and for the cords behind the desk, Oskar used zip ties to bunch them together, which if I had to give one bit of advice, I would just recommend they use a cable sleeve for the cords behind your PC, Oskar, as it would help to make it look even more clean. But overall, I really like this setup, mostly because it looks clean with the white theme, the equipment is quite good, and because the cable management is really good here as well. And then finally, we got my friend Gabriel, also known as Genjo. He is 16 years old, lives in California. He likes to use his PC for gaming and editing videos, and his favorite games are GTA 5, Rainbow Six Siege, and basically most shooters. But getting to the setup, I think it looks pretty slick, especially with his PC, but we'll talk about his PC later. Moving on to his equipment, he has a 24-inch Acer monitor, an Audio-Technica ATR 2500 microphone, a SteelSeries Arctis 3 headset, a Razer Synosa Chroma keyboard, and uses a gaming mouse from PicTech. Also, he does have a Genji pop vinyl for an accessory, which is how he came up with his name, I'm assuming. But anyways, the equipment overall is quite nice, and for his desk, he's rocking an IKEA Mickey desk, which honestly, anything from IKEA is a good deal in my opinion. But moving on to PC specs, he has an Intel Core i5-7600K, a 3GB GTX 1060, 16GB of DDR4 Ram clocked at 3000MHz, has a 250GB SSD, 650W power supply, and all of that within an NZXT H510 PC case. So with all those specs in mind, I'm pretty sure Genjo gets fantastic FPS in games and just nice performance overall. And I do gotta note that the white color scheme for the PC just looks hella clean. Oh, and I forgot to mention that Genjo uses a gaming chair from Deer Hunter, which he did say that he plans on getting a white chair, as he knows that the chair doesn't really match the color scheme currently. And he also plans on upgrading his PicTech mouse to the G903 mouse and the G PowerPlay mouse pad, which would be some sick upgrades in my opinion. And now for the cable management, I think it's pretty clean and creative since he wrapped the cords around the leg of his desk. Other than that, I think the cable management is quite good. But overall, I really love this setup, but I would recommend getting a microphone arm for your mic, Genjo, since it would help with space on your desk. Other than that, I think the setup looks great. But guys, that's gonna wrap it up for this episode of Setup Tour Showdown, and I want to say thanks again to everyone featured in this episode because this video wouldn't be up without you guys. And if you did submit to be featured in this series but didn't see your setup, don't worry, I got your submissions and I'll be sure to try and put you guys in another episode of Setup Tour Showdown. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If so, drop a like and subscribe if you want me to continue on this series. Also, if you guys can, comment down below whose setup was your favorite and comment down below what you liked and disliked about the setups. For me personally, I'm half and half between Oskar and Genjo setups, mostly because they seem the cleanest out of everyone's. So leave your thoughts down below. Also, if you guys can, come join my Discord and link down below, as I do love talking to my fans. But anyways guys, thanks for watching and be sure to have notifications on so you won't miss any of my videos. My name's ProdiJay, and as always, stay classy.